Hello again. Today the topic is dive watches, what they are, some famous ones, and why you probably don't need to spend a lot of money on them. So, when you start looking into your watches, you're probably going to come across this term called a dive watch. I had a three-part series on just the history of watches, how they came to be concisely. I talked about dive watches. If you missed that, go back and watch it, or if you don't, here's the cliff notes. So what you need to know is that around the 60s, with Jacques Cousteau's adventures and stuff, people became very interested in scuba diving as a sport. There wasn't that much technology around then, so there was a need for a tool to help people scuba dive. One of the early ones that came out was the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, and I'm probably saying that wrong, closely followed by what one would say the most iconic dive watch of all time, the Rolex Submariner. Now, what both of these watches have in common is that they are going to have a unidirectional bezel, meaning that it rotates one way counterclockwise, most likely. And the point of that ring on there, which counts from 0 to 60, is in short form to see how much time you had left in your tanks. As a tool, all dive watches are completely obsolete now. And if you are doing any scuba diving for real, you're probably not going to use those, at least as your primary. You're probably going to have either a Sunto or a Cressy, either one of those, a real risk diving computer, just because you have a lot more on there, a lot more technology that's available there. Depth charts, history, so forth and so on. If you are going to use one, you're probably only going to use it as a backup to a real dive computer. There are dive watches out there, starting at the Invicta Pro Diver is a favorite of some people's. Then you'd have the Orient Ray or Ray 2, that's a Japanese one. There's the Tissot Powermatic 80 Diver, which I like because you have an 80-hour power reserve, meaning that if you take it off on a Friday, you could pretty much go 3 or 4 days without wearing it, and it'll still be running fine. You won't have to reset the date of time. Tag Heuer, Aqua Racer, that's a real sporty one that I like also. And the Omega Seamaster, which is, on the higher end of those. But for what they do, all of these dive watches are essentially obsolete. Now, I don't know why anybody would buy like a dive watch with 500-meter depth resistance or anything crazy like that, or even 300 meters. I talked to somebody who went scuba diving, and a couple other friends I know also, and they basically said 100 meters is pretty much all you need. Now keep that in mind. If most people are only ever going to go 100 meters, and then they're probably going to use a wrist computer, you'd really want to wonder why it is you'd spend, any more than a couple $1,000s on a dive watch. It's jewelry, right? So maybe that'll help you save some money. Something to keep in mind. That's what a scuba dive watch is. The history is that it was a tool that was developed to help people with scuba diving. It's completely obsolete now. It's essentially just jewelry. So when you go to the store and the guy wants to say, oh, well, this one gives you 300-meter depth resistance, or this is the one James Bond wore, you can go a mile underwater in this. I'm exaggerating. Look, as much as we want to be, we're not James Bond. We're probably only ever going to use it to go in a swimming pool or something. So you don't need to spend a lot of money on getting a dive watch with a lot of hardened features that even most professional divers are not going to use anyway. It's just simply a gimmick. It's to give you the romance of that sporty lifestyle. Hope you found that interesting. Let me know in the comments. Thank you. Bye.